My name is Sarah King, and I have Tina Day, Sarah Makis, Madison Viola, and Tim Watkins joining me behind the scenes. We are with the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, and you are joining our March webinar for the I-10 Express Lanes project. A couple of items that we want to explain before we get underway with the presentation. Today, we will be highlighting bridges, and we have a structures expert, AJ Abascal, who will explain and inform us what it takes to tear down and rebuild a bridge. Our webinar will be recorded and posted on our website at gosbcta.com/I-10 corridor for those who couldn't join us live today. And as part of the webinar feature, your microphone is automatically muted and your cameras are automatically turned off. We will be using the Q&A function to answer your questions. Our team will provide written responses in real time. And at the conclusion of the presentation, we will highlight and respond to some key themes and topics from those questions. We will be launching a few polls throughout our presentation. The polls are an interactive way to help us learn more about you and gauge your awareness levels on some of the topics that we'll be discussing. So thank you in advance for your participation. And just a reminder, this is an informational meeting to educate you about this project. We believe all positions, positive or negative, related to SBCTA activities should have a voice in this process. However, we expect that this will be done in a respectful manner. SBCTA reserves the right to monitor, filter, and remove content or participants that our team deems inappropriate. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Zoom's platform, the Q&A box can be found at the bottom of your screen. Simply click on where it says Q&A and a pop-up will appear on your screen where you can type in your question, and we will respond to those questions using this feature. And again, we will address overall topics and themes at the end of our presentation. You may still see the chat feature button at the bottom of your screen. However, chats will only be directed to panelists and utilized to receive more information for questions that may require further research. Again, please submit your questions and comments through the Q&A feature. If you are joining us from a landline and using the call-in option, please email your questions to info@gosbcta.com. So let's get started. The SB Express Lanes in San Bernardino County has been environmentally approved and cleared from the LA San Bernardino County line to Ford Street in Redlands. This is the yellow line that you see here along the I-10 on the map. This will provide approximately 33 miles of express lanes along I-10 in each direction. However, it consists of about 3 different projects or phases, and today we're here to talk about phase 1. The first phase is highlighted here on the left side of the map, and it's from the LA San Bernardino County line to the I-15 interchange. We're going to launch our first poll question. Madison, if you can launch the poll, and we're asking if you live in one of the corridor cities along phase 1 of the I-10 Express Lanes project. Phase 1 from the county line to I-15 includes 2 tolled express lanes in each direction in the median of the freeway, and anyone can choose to use them for a fee once they're open in 2023. And it's the reason for all of the changes and construction activity you may be seeing on the road today. San Bernardino County is expected to grow by more than 500,000 people over the next 25 years, and the project will address the most significant bottlenecks and improve speed and reliability for all drivers. Madison, can we take a look at our poll results? Okay, so it's a little bit mixed. I see some folks from Montclair, Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga, Upland, and it looks like the majority of those joining us today are commuters. So thank you again for joining us, and hopefully you learned some new information today. Excuse me. All right, so construction broke ground in spring 2020, and prior to construction starting, the I-10 looked a little bit like this. 4 general purpose lanes, an auxiliary lane to assist drivers with merging on and off the freeway between ramps, a shoulder, and 1 high occupancy vehicle or carpool lane. The project will keep the current configuration with no changes to the 4 general purpose lanes, but we are adding 2 tolled express lanes in each direction and a shoulder, where the 1 HOV lane currently is. Construction is anticipated to be complete in 2023. Funding for the first phase has been secured from federal, state, and local resources, including Measure I, San Bernardino County's half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements. Now, express lanes aren't new to Southern California. However, the I-10 express lanes will be the first express lanes within San Bernardino County. And we're going to be launching our next poll. Madison, if you can launch that. And we're asking those who have joined us today if you have ever used an express lane, and please do not be shy if you don't know the answer. Express lanes offer a choice to drivers, they relieve congestion and provide trip reliability throughout the corridor. And they benefit all drivers because those who choose to pay to use the express lanes also free up space in the general purpose lanes. Now, while the SBCTA Board of Directors are still working through the toll policies for the I-10 express lanes, if you have 3 or more people in your vehicle, or if you drive a clean air vehicle or ride a motorcycle, you will be able to use the express lanes at no or low cost. Madison, can we take a look at our results? Okay, 83% have said yes, and 17% have responded to no, but I'm glad that everybody knows that if they have traveled in an express lane, and the majority have used an express lane. Thanks for participating. So again, others may choose to pay a toll and use express lanes as an alternative to the general purpose lanes. Now, Fast Track is used to collect tolls on every tolled bridge, lane, and road in the state of California. And Madison, if you can launch our next poll question. We're asking those who are live with us today if you have a Fast Track account. Now, a pre-established Fast Track account will be required to pay for tolls and receive the lowest toll price. But visitors or infrequent users can alternatively pay for tolls online within 5 days after their trip on the I-10 express lanes in San Bernardino County using a pay online feature. So Fast Track transponders come in a variety of forms. They could be hard cased with batteries, a sticker that you affix to the inside of your windshield, or even a switchable transponder to declare occupancy in your vehicle. If you'd like to be eligible for toll discounts and pay the lowest toll amount while using the I-10 express lanes in San Bernardino County, you will need a Fast Track account and transponder to declare or identify how many passengers are traveling with you. Madison, can we see our poll results, please? Okay, that's good. Music to my ears. The same amount of folks who said yes, they traveled in an express lane also have a Fast Track account, and the same goes for the response for no. So again, Fast Track will be enabled to collect tolls on the I-10 express lanes, but alternatively, if you are not a frequent user of express lanes, for the I-10 in San Bernardino County, you may pay online. Excuse me. Now, since spring of last year, crews have been hard at work building the first phase of the SB Express Lanes project. Construction occurs during daytime and nighttime hours and involves work in lanes, on and off ramps, along the shoulder to the freeway, and even local streets and roads. For those of you who responded to our icebreaker poll before we officially started our presentation, the answer is 18, as you see here on the slide. There are 18 bridges within the 10-mile corridor that are either being replaced, widened, or improved to accommodate for the widening of the freeway to add the express lanes. Now, retaining walls and sound walls are also coming down and going right back up, and crews are rehabilitating the main line, and lots of utilities are being relocated. Now, for those of you who responded for living within one of the corridor cities, you may have experienced lanes shifting or being narrowed, and even seeing construction vehicles entering and exiting the freeway as part of this project. Now, with construction progressing, the project team has scheduled a series of 55-hour weekend directional closures on the eastbound and westbound I-10. These 55-hour closures usually start on a Friday night at 9 p.m. and extend through early Monday morning, opening back up to the public by 5 a.m. They are scheduled for the next few weekends, except Easter weekend, and will occur over the next 2 years to allow crews to remove and repave portions of the I-10 freeway and perform major construction activities. Construction is dynamic and schedules may change, but all real-time closures and detours can be found on the project's Google map at go.sbcta.com/I-10 corridor, and we encourage you to plan ahead during construction. Now, before we jump into our focus for this month's webinar, which is our bridges, I wanted to give you an update about our work on the retaining and sound walls and local street and lane closures. Because we're widening the footprint of the freeway, our crews need to take down and rebuild all the retaining and sound walls that are between you and the freeway. As part of this work, they are also relocating utilities and removing trees on several local streets adjacent to the I-10. You may have seen a sign similar to the one on the photo here on the bottom if you live within the corridor. And while your commute on the I-10 may look different from week to week, it also might look different on your local streets. And that's because of these closures and activities. So these street and lane closures are needed to allow our crews to work safely and allow us to get through to widening the freeway. But this specific work, as it relates to retaining walls and sound walls, takes place during weekdays only, during both daytime and nighttime hours. So now we're going to jump into the focus of today's webinar, which is our bridges. Today, we're working on about 11 of the 18 bridges within the 10-mile corridor, and the next handful of slides will give you a glimpse into the life of this active construction project. Work on the bridges can be loud, and for those of you who responded to living within one of the corridor cities, you may feel vibration from the bridge activities during both daytime and nighttime hours. Joining us is AJ Abascal from the Lane Security Paving Joint Venture, the team that is building the project on behalf of SBCTA. Hi, AJ.
Hi, Sarah.
So we're going to make this a bit of a back and forth dialogue, and I'm hoping that you can just help explain to our webinar guests and those who will watch the recording after the webinar what it takes to widen and reconstruct the bridges on this project.
Sounds great.
Right, so our first slide up, we have closures and reduced lanes. So shutting down streets or freeways, we understand can be an inconvenience to those who live nearby or are headed out the door to work. I know I myself have been detoured around a construction activity before, but help me understand, why do we close some bridges and yet others remain open but have reduced lanes?
Sure. So typically on this project, the bridges that we do close are the smaller ones. They're 2 lanes wide, 1 in each direction, serving the smaller local streets. The bigger ones, such as Euclid or Vineyard, those have multiple lanes in each direction, serving some of the more major local streets. And those are the ones that we try to keep traffic flowing through. So we'll do those in different phases.
Okay, and what type of preparatory work is necessary or coordination before you start working on a bridge?
Sure. So in general, you want to set up your traffic control, which is basically a term to help guide traffic through specific routes. So that might mean revising the pavement striping, signs, placing temporary barriers, so on and so forth, just to help guide traffic through the route that has been predetermined. The next thing that you want to do is you want to identify any utilities that might be in the way of let's say, the work that needs to be done. So you'll either want to shut those off or relocate them so as not to kind of get in the way of the work that needs to be done. After that, what you want to do is you want to prevent the ground or earth from let's say, giving way. So what we do is we install what's called a shoring system, which is basically a fancy term for a temporary wall, just comprised of steel beams and plates, and that just helps any erosion and like I was saying, degradation of the earth. So those are, in general, those are the things that we'd like to do on as our preparatory for beginning any work on bridges.
So definitely a lot of deliberate coordination and intent put into this before shutting it down.
That's right. Yep.
All right, so that's a good segue because our next slide is utility relocation. So I think of the utilities for my own home: water, power, cable, internet. Are these the same types of utilities that you're talking about that need to be relocated?
That's right. The way I like to think about utilities is it's just any commodity that gets distributed from one place to another. So like you said, water, gas, electric, cable, so on and so forth. Those are the utilities that we're talking about and that sometimes do have to be relocated either permanently or temporarily.
All right, so now I'm sure there's a lot of other activities that take place from relocating the utilities to actually getting to a bridge demolition and bridge widening. But help me understand what that bridge demolition process is like and some of the different equipment that I see here on this slide.
Yeah, sure. So again, we start with our traffic control. This is more temporary, as it usually only stays in place for a few hours while we're doing the actual demolition of the bridge. But that's the first thing we want to set up. And it's basically to help detour or reroute traffic away from the demolition activity itself. And that's basically for both the public safety and the safety of the workers. Once that's in place, what we'll do is we'll bring basically dump trucks loaded with material, earth, dirt. And what we do with that is we dump it just underneath the actual bridge itself. and basically create like a protective pad. And that helps in protecting the actual existing pavement on the freeway so it doesn't get damaged. As you know, you're talking about tons of concrete falling on the ground. So we want to keep that protected as best we can. So that's what we typically start off with. Once that's in place, we'll bring in our excavators, which you can kind of see here. Depending on the size of the bridge will kind of determine the number of a piece of equipment that you have. So the bigger the bridge, the more equipment that you need. So usually, at least on this project, we like to work from both top and bottom. So that way it's as quick and efficient as we can be. The excavators on the top, you can kind of think of them as weakening or softening up the bridge. For the excavators on the bottom, that they're the ones that really tear down the bridge like in large chunks, as you can kind of see in the photo. While all that's happening, you have loaders that are basically picking up the rubble, placing them in empty dump trucks and taking them to a designated disposal site. Once that's all done and the materials cleared off, we'll reopen the freeway. And then there might be times where, just due to the size of the bridge, we might have to come back on multiple nights, but typically it's not a full closure of the freeway. It might be one side or just a small amount of lanes. So in a nutshell, that's the process.
Okay, and you mentioned hauling off the debris that we see here. Is there any opportunity in our industry to be able to recycle what we're seeing there?
Yes, so actually, once it goes to those designated disposal sites, we do remove, it's kind of hard to see in the photo, but there is steel in there that does get recycled to designated plants, that those do get reused on different projects. The concrete itself, we actually are crushing to reuse on this project specifically. So yes.
Great, thanks. That's a nice little tidbit. All right, so now in this photo, what I'm looking at here, I see a bridge that spans the I-10 freeway over here on the left side of the photo. And then adjacent to it, it looks like the inside makings of what a new bridge would be. So is the thought here that you would connect these two to make one large wide bridge that spans the 10 freeway, or what am I looking at?
So basically what you're looking at, this image of Euclid, we are trying to do this in two halves, basically. So what you're seeing in this photo is actually in the center there, all that wood and those beams are what's called a false work. And that's basically a system to allow us to work on those columns that you can kind of see the steel sticking out from the top. And it also helps us when we're placing the girders for the bridges, it allows them to sit on that until they're connected to the actual bridge itself. So once that's all done and we finish that half, we'll go back and do the same thing on the other side. Okay.
And can you help explain some of the terminology that we have listed here on the slide? Abutment, bent, column, deck. I'm sure you use that terminology every day, but what does that mean?
We do. So an abutment, and actually you can kind of see it to the far end of that picture. It's basically the foundation, if you will, of the bridge, basically supporting the top on which the drivers drive on. Abutments are only on either end of the bridge, whereas going to the next definition, bents are similar, but they're in the middle. Depending on the length of the bridge, you may need multiple bents to support the weight of the bridge itself and the traffic. So on this project, we either have 0 or 1 bent per bridge, but if you go elsewhere, you could see multiple, just depending on the length of the bridge. Columns, those are basically part of the bent system, if you will, and it just helps support the bridge in between the abutments. And then the deck, that's basically the surface of the bridge in which traffic drives on, in essence.
Okay, thank you. In our next slide, we have girder installation. I see a really cool aerial night shot, but I don't know what I'm looking at. So let's help our viewers understand what a girder is, why they might be important, and really what we're looking at in this photo.
Sure. So just starting off, a girder is basically a beam either made of concrete, steel, or wood. In our case, it's made out of concrete. And those sit on top of the abutments and the bents, and it basically adds to helping support the actual deck of the bridge. What you're seeing in the photo itself is us actually placing the girders a couple months ago into their predetermined locations.
Okay, and so if I'm going to test my knowledge on the slide that you just described for abutments, so the abutments are here on the outside,
correct,
of the bridge, and our bent is here in the middle.
Yes.
And these concrete beams, is that what you had shared, are the
Yes.
girders?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. And so now after girders are installed, what are the next steps that get us to look at a photo like this? Because this to me looks like the bridge is almost ready to welcome back motorists and pedestrians and cyclists.
Almost, yes. So what you're looking at here is basically what they call a false deck. And that allows us to work on the actual permanent deck, which is in a sense the final milestone, or almost the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, into reopening traffic, the Bridge 2 traffic. What you're going to see is once the girders are set, we're going to start with the temporary working platform or false deck. And that helps us construct the actual permanent deck. It's quite tedious. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in there. It's one of the slower or longer activities, but luckily for us, Sultana's almost done. So the light is at the end of the tunnel for that one. Once that's done, we do the deck pour, which usually takes a night or two for bridges at this size. And it's also quite tedious. You want to be really careful just because you want to create a nice, smooth, drivable surface. So if you're not careful, you know, that's why we're so careful when doing that kind of thing.
So there's precision needed for the end user. And so when you do a deck pour, why does the freeway below need to be closed?
So it's for safety. There's so many pieces of equipment and personnel that it's just safe, be safe than sorry, I guess is the term that I'd use. We just don't want there to be any chance of something happening. So that's why.
Great, thank you. So our next few slides, we're going to give our webinar guests just an update on some of the bridges. So thank you, AJ, for explaining the various stages of taking a bridge down and building it back up. I know we made it look pretty simple in just a few slides, but there obviously sounds like a lot of crews and coordination and equipment that is needed for that. But I'm hopeful that this explanation helps explain why freeway projects take so much time and coordination, and shed some intel as to why so many activities occur at night. So thanks again, AJ. So again, the next few slides are just providing an update on some of our key bridges that we're working on. Crews continue to build the new Sultana Avenue Bridge over I-10, which started last year. Crews will pour concrete for the bridge tomorrow night. Again, what AJ had just shared, and it's starting Friday night, March 26th from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The westbound I-10 will be closed between Vineyard Avenue and Euclid Avenue. And then on Monday, March 29th, from 10:30 p.m. to 5 a.m., the eastbound I-10 will be closed between Euclid Avenue and Vineyard Avenue. So motorists will be detoured off the freeway. And if you're planning to travel during these times, please be on the lookout for any detour signs. Work on Euclid Avenue began in mid-May 2020 and will last for approximately 18 months. Crews demolished the east side of the bridge last year and are working on rebuilding the northbound lanes. Daytime and nighttime activity includes building the bridge supports, which is what you see here on the screen. And in April, crews are scheduled to do the deck pour, like we're doing on Sultana that AJ just alluded to, on the east side of the bridge, which will require closures, and more information on those details will be provided as we get closer to that date. So we will end our bridge highlights section with Vineyard Avenue over I-10. This bridge will be replaced in a two-phase process. The east side of Vineyard Avenue over I-10 was partially demolished in early March, and that's the photo that you see here on this slide. Construction will last approximately 18 months, expecting to be open to the public in fall of 2022. Daytime and nighttime activities include installing temporary support structures, drainage, and earthwork. So as you can see, these bridges take a lot of time and precision to demolish and reconstruct. And we just thank you for joining us today to learn more about these bridges, but also thank you to those who live and travel within the corridor for your patience throughout the project. So we are in the home stretch of our presentation, just talking about our community outreach. We want to make sure that you are aware of how to learn more about our project and how to reach our team. We're going to ask another poll question here, asking the folks who are joining us, how do you receive our project information? This question is multiple choice, so you may be receiving information in more ways than one, but hopefully you're receiving information on the platform that works best for you. Our information across the platforms is consistent, and if there's a closure, we want you to be prepared. And if there's a major activity near where you live, we want you to be informed in advance. But all of this information is provided in a variety of ways to ensure that you select the platform that works best for you. So we have a robust website, gosbcta.com/I-10 corridor, where you can sign up to receive our weekly construction alerts. We send these out on Friday afternoons with the upcoming week's construction activities, so you're prepared for the week ahead. We offer a text alert program to receive alerts. You can text I-10 Express Lanes to 31996. I sign up specifically for text alerts for specific information that I want to be sure I don't miss. It might be the same content your neighbor is receiving via email. You're just getting it received as a text alert. And then we're very active on social media and encourage you to follow Go SBCTA on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And you may get to see some bonus footage like what you've seen here today during our webinar of the construction behind the scenes. Madison, can we take a look at our poll results? Okay, thank you. So everyone, it looks like the majority of people are receiving information via our construction alert. I'm so glad to see that. And then as well as our project website and community notices and text alerts. So thank you for that, Madison. Excuse me. So here's a snapshot of some of the collateral that we share, but it probably looks like this might be redundant information for those of you joining us since you're all receiving it in some fashion. But the far left is a community notice that we distribute this flyer door to door to residents in the vicinity of where a specific activity is taking place. This one happened to be specific to a Mountain Avenue partial bridge demolition. So any residents or businesses that lived right within the immediate area would have received this on their doorstep. The center is an example of our weekly construction alerts. Again, we send these out on Friday afternoon with a look ahead for the next week. And they're packed with a lot of valuable information about key activities, bridge work, freeway lanes, on and off ramps, and local streets. But if I can direct your attention to the very bottom gray box, which we also zoomed in on the top of the right part of the slide here, where it says learn more about I-10 Express Lanes construction in your city. And so we have these three buttons, these green buttons, Montclair, Ontario, and Upland. And if you live in one of these cities and click on one of those, this image here on the bottom, a city sheet, will appear. And it's really helpful, especially for the people who selected that they live in one of the corridor cities. If you click on one of the green boxes, it will give you detailed information about the construction activities, lane closures, sound walls, and retaining walls as it relates specific to that city. So if you're like many of us who are still working from home during the pandemic and you're not venturing too far out of your city limits, this is a valuable resource, and the content is very detailed and hyper-tailored for each city. Now, with a project of this magnitude and seeing all the shots that are taken during the nighttime of our construction activity on the bridges, you can imagine the number of freeway, lane, and road closures that take place every day. So we encourage everyone to always plan ahead, allow for extra time to reach your destination, or seek alternate routes to avoid the construction area during this time. But we offer real-time updates on closures and detours in an interactive Google map. And here are just a few screenshots of those. You can access this from our website, download or bookmark it to your computer or your mobile phone, and it will give you the most real-time, up-to-date information on closures and detours. So many project details can be found at the click of the button. I'm going to direct your attention to the middle screen grab, where you see the red icon with a big white X that indicates a closure. So if you were to click on one of those, additional information would appear describing the details of the closure and then any of the recommended detours around that closure. And so that brings us to our final slide, where we're going to end with a CHP safety reminder. You might have seen our latest SBCTA Today video highlighting safety while traveling through the I-10 Express Lanes corridor. We cannot stress this message enough. Your commute on the I-10 freeway and local streets will be different, and it changes from week to week and month to month, and it will continue to do so until the project is complete in 2023. So we urge you to obey the posted speed limits and leave early to allow for extra time to reach your destination. The speed limit has been reduced to 55 miles per hour in the project area. The reduced speed limit will be in effect through the project completion and is being enforced by the California Highway Patrol. So be alert and on the lookout for new striping and shifting lanes, and please use caution while driving through the construction zone. So that concludes our presentation. AJ, thank you again so much for being here. I know you're going to stick around for any questions that we might receive from those joining us. And I see some questions have been submitted throughout the presentation. So a quick reminder, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. And if you're joining us from a landline, please send an email to info@gosbcta.com. So Madison, have we received any questions, any topics or major themes that you're seeing?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. We have a quick question right now, and that was a very thorough presentation with lots of information. I'm sure we all really appreciate it. But my first question to you guys is, are there any timelines planned for the next phases of the I-10 project, specifically 2 and 3? And maybe Tim can help us out with that question.
Thank you, Madison. Yeah, so as Sarah highlighted in the beginning of the presentation, we did clear all the way between the LA County line and Ford Street in Redlands. She kind of alluded to 3 phases, but it's really to be determined number of phases in order to deliver the rest of that corridor. Some of it's based on demand of the system as we head east. Some of it's, a lot of it, unfortunately, is based on funding as well. And so while we have targets for a portion of what might be phase 2, which could get us maybe to Sierra Avenue and Fontana, for example, as the next extension, it will still require us to develop a funding package. So an exact schedule is not necessarily foreseeable exactly. However, it's in our targets to look at. One of the things that we're doing next on that is the I-15 corridor, which goes from roughly Cantu Galeano in Riverside County, which is where Riverside is terminating their work of their express lane project, and that we will tie in and head north to roughly Foothill Boulevard in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. So that is where our emphasis will be on the next phase of express lanes, and then working our way towards a future phasing of I-10. So I wish I could be more specific, but there's a lot of pieces that still need to be clarified as we move forward.
Thanks, Tim. We really appreciate that response. And it actually looks like we don't have any further questions, but I'd like to remind all of our participants that our team is always available to respond to any questions or comments. If you can email us at info@gosbcta.com. Tim, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you so much, Madison. I appreciate it. You know, we said today's emphasis. Thank you guys very much for all of that information. I thought it was great. AJ, you were outstanding and continue to be a good partner with us on this project. So thank you. As you know, I represent the agency, and this is the team here that helps communicate that information out to you guys. And while AJ focused a lot on bridges, you notice there was a real theme behind all of that, which is safety. Sarah talked about safety on the recent SBCTA Today video. Safety is a critical piece. We talked about the bridge. Why close the I-10 if we're doing a deck pour up above? Well, construction is a lot of science and math, and so we are testing the limits of physics and things of that nature, and we don't want to do that test over live traffic. So when we're pouring concrete and adding a new load to what we have calculated out and designed and developed, there's still some risk, and we don't want to put the public at risk when we're doing those things. And so safety is a big part of it. We have legal requirements in a lot of places, but moreover, it's just the right thing to do, right? For the safety of the people working there, for the safety of the people driving through. And so I think it's really important that we stay focused on that. I encourage you, as just a general public watching this project and seeing how things develop, I assure you that if you kept in mind that there's probably a safety piece that warrants some of the decision making to what we're doing, that's indeed true. The main thing, if I can encourage anybody that's watching today, the takeaway from this is how to connect with us, right? Is how to get involved with us. You don't need to wait for the next webinar to get engaged with us and ask a question or learn something. If there's something that's you need to know, we're here to answer. And so please reach out to us as soon as you can.
Thanks, Tim. It looks like we got one more question. Can you go into a little bit more detail on when the project is expected to be completed?
Yeah, so it always has been targeted for completion in 2023. There are a lot of moving parts to get us there, but we fully expect 2023 to be the start of service. What the construction effort will be delivered for sure. Then it gets into establishing all of the service components to that and working with our partners and providing that service. There's a lot of details that are still kind of policies and things of that nature that we're working through with the board of directors and our project partners and then our delivery partners of the service. We'll be working with folks in Orange County and other places to provide that service to you. One of the things that we're going to be doing in the near future is expanding that part of the conversation, right? We're focused a lot on construction right now, but we need to start expanding the conversation onto how express lanes work and how they work with you, the end user. And so look on the project page for a tab that talks about SB express lanes, and we'll start to be putting all of those frequently asked questions up on our website that helps you understand how we get there. We fully expect to open this service in 2023, and we're doing everything we can to get there.
That's great. I'm sure everybody's really looking forward to it. Thanks again, Tim, for all of that information. Just looking through our Q&A one more time to see if we have any more questions. And let's see, are there, I have a question here about any major risks on the project, and maybe I'm trying to pinpoint what they're alluding to. If it's an anonymous attendee, so if you could provide a little bit more detail to your question, we'd be happy to answer it, or we'd be happy to contact you to provide further information. But we can just take a second to wait on that one, and maybe I can kick it back to Sarah just to close us out, and we can readdress that after if we need to.
Sure, I just want to echo what Tim shared, that we are here for you. Email us anytime to info@gosbcta.com. We're so glad that you could join us today. Again, this recording of the webinar will be posted on the website, and our next webinar is scheduled for April 29th at 12 p.m. And so hopefully we'll be bringing some new and exciting information. And just please share the word with your friends and your neighbors for those of you who joined us today, because we'd love to see more participants joining our webinar.
Madison, if I can chime in as well, that
Yes,
risk question is it could be anywhere, right? There are micro risk and major risk in every project delivery process. And so if they could email us, if they have some specificity, then we can do the research for whatever they need to know on that. I'll tell you, construction is not an exact, it's not always exactly predictable, right? So things happen in the field that we need to adjust for, or things that we can't even predict, a la a pandemic or labor issues or things of that nature that factor into some of the things that we do from a timing perspective. Most of those risks are managed in the project development process, right? We try to identify where those risk factors are, and then we work through solutions and develop contractual ways in which to manage those risks. So I would say that anything major, foreseeable major risk would have already been addressed through the project development process. And so then we get into the micro things of, do we miss a day or lose a day because of some production schedule in the field, but not overall risk to the. Still email us if there's some specificity that you would like us to address.
That sounds great. We're going to go ahead and close our Q&A portion right now. Sarah and Tim, if you have anything else to add. If not, I think this concludes our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and have a great day.